Zimmerman. I know we have some guests. We have some guests to our congregation. We have some guests to Judaism. And so we're really glad to have you here this morning. I'm joined on the bima by Angie Friedman, who has been Natalie's tutor and partner and preparation and everything else getting ready. And wonderful to have you here with us on this beautiful Saturday morning. Ross Schultz, president of the congregation, of course, Natalie. As we prepare for worship here at Beth-El congregation, we know we may have others who couldn't make the trip watching at home, and so I always like to thank Mark Sloter, who is our streamer for this Shabbat. So this service is on YouTube. You're a YouTube star if you weren't already, on our Beth-El channel. And of course, I want to thank Cantor Shoshana Abrams-Kaiko, the educator of our congregation, who is also here in the congregation and works to really build a curriculum in a school that nurtures and immerses and prepares our students for this day. So Shabbat Shalom and welcome. To become a bar or bat mitzvah, I mean, we don't really emphasize until the actual day and all the work's done. But when you turn 13, you become a bar or bat mitzvah. That regardless, because it means son or daughter of commandment. It means you're responsible for your own spiritual life and religious choices. But for us at Beth-El, it also means we hope that you've mastered many of the skills that we would hope an adult Jewish man or woman would have. Not only reading from the Torah, which we'll talk about a little later, but also leading us in worship. And so you will see that for much of the morning, Natalie will lead us in many of our regular Saturday morning Shabbat prayers, so that should she find herself in another community or here, she can lead services again and be a part of our religious community. So she can demonstrate through her speech and through her teachings and her words and her preparation everything she's done to be a member of our community. And so this is a Shabbat morning service, and we begin with our Shabbat morning service. You can find in your pews two books. The blue book is our prayer book, and there's a thicker one and a thinner one. That just means they're two different versions. All you need to know is that if I call out a page number and you have more than one page number, I'm referring to the one in brackets. Otherwise, you can ignore me. You'll also notice there are some red books. Those are our Torah commentaries. There's 2 or 3 in each pew, unless they've migrated. And should you wish, when we get to the Torah service, to follow along in Hebrew or read in English as she reads in Hebrew, I'll let you know what page that's on in the red book. We begin with Shabbat morning prayer. We're going to begin with Ma Tovu on page 290.
Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov mishkanotecha Yisrael. Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov mishkanotecha Yisrael. One more time. Ma tovu ohalecha Yaakov mishkanotecha Yisrael.
We turn back just one page, and you see there the blessing for the talit, the prayer shawl, whose fringes are said to represent up to the number, if added just correctly, 613, which represent the commandments in the Torah, the ways to a Jewish life. And so to put on a talit, to be presented with a talit for the first time, means to wrap yourself in the life of the Jewish people and in the mitzvot, the commandments that we have. Today, Natalie will be receiving a talit from her mom and dad, and we invite them up on the bima to present it to her.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'atitef b'tzitzit.
Amen. Before we turn to the center of our service, the call to worship, the affirmation of God's oneness, and a number of other prayers, we begin, pardon my cough, with some early morning blessings. We give thanks for our body, we give thanks for our soul, we give thanks for all of those gifts that allow us to be here this day. And so we read on page 291 together in English. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, sovereign of the universe. With divine wisdom you have made our bodies, combining veins, arteries, and vital organs into a finely balanced network. Wondrous maker and sustainer of life, were one of them to fail, how well we are aware we would lack the strength to sustain life before you. Blessed are you, Adonai, source of our health and strength. Baruch atah Adonai, rofei chol basar umafli la'asot. We read together, we give thanks for our body and also our soul, our essence, whatever that is, that makes us who we are, page 292. The soul that you have given me, O God, is pure. You created and formed it, breathed it into me, and within me you sustain it. So long as I have breath, therefore, I will give thanks to you, my God and the God of all ages, source of all being, loving guide of every human spirit. Baruch atah Adonai, asher biado, nefesh kol chai, v'ruach kol basar ish. Excuse me. One more prayer on page 298. It comes to us from the Talmud, a Jewish legal code written about 1,800 years ago, which is still pretty recent in Jewish time, since the Torah scroll that Natalie will be reading from, not the actual scroll, but the words are at least 1,000 years older. And so we turn to Elu Divarim, which speaks about our daily commitments to God and to live good lives. For those who are comfortable, we read together 298. These are things that are limitless, of which a person enjoys the fruit of the world, while the principle remains in the world to come. They are honoring one's father and mother, engaging in deeds of compassion, arriving early for study, morning and evening, dealing graciously with guests, visiting the sick, providing for the wedding couple, accompanying the dead for burial, being devoted in prayer, and making peace among people. But the study of Torah encompasses them all. We turn to page 312, and there we move from our early morning preparations, our spiritual stretching, if you will, to the Chatzi Kaddish, a prayer that lets us know we are beginning a new section of the service, that we are entering the call to worship, that we are entering the affirmation of God, oneness with the Shema, and so we continue with the Chatzi Kaddish.
Yitkadal v'yitkadash Shemei Rabbah Be'amad Yivra Hirotei V'yamlich Malhutei B'chayehon U'yomehon Uv'hayeh D'chol Beit Yisrael Bagala Uvizman Kariv V'meru, Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mevorah, Le'alam U'el Maya, Yitbarah, V'yishtabash, V'yitpa'ar, V'yitromam, V'yitnaseh, V'yithadar, V'yithaleh, V'yithalal, Shemei Dekudesha Brihu, Le'elal, Mikol Birchata V'yishurata, Tushbechata V'nechemata, Damiran Be'alma, V'meru, Amen. Please rise. Barehu et Adonai
remain standing and we continue on page 315.
Together. God of all creation, you are blessed with each soul's breath. Your greatness and goodness fill the world. Knowledge and understanding surround your glory. Holiest are you among the holy, seated in glorious splendor, radiating purity and justice, bestowing loving kindness. In knowledge and understanding, you created the heavenly lights, giving them strength and power to bring light into the world. Full of splendor, they radiate brightness. The world is warmed by their flames. We rejoice in their comings and goings, reflecting the will of their Creator. Glory and honor they give to you, glowing praises to your rule. You call to the sun, and it gives forth light. You set the patterns of the moon. You are honored throughout the heavens with songs of glory and praise. Ahava Rabbah Ahavtanu, Adonai Eloheinu, Hem Gedola V'Tera, Hamalta Aleinu, Ba'avur Avoteinu, Ve'imotenu, Shabbat hu v'cha, Avotenu ve'imotenu, V'chalandenu kechaim, Kain tehonenu utlandenu, Rahem aleinu, V'tein b'libenu lehavinu haskil lishmoa, lilmod uleamed, lishmor v'lasot, ukayet kol direi, Talmud Torah ve'ahava, ve'ernenu b'toratecha, ve'dibekbenu b'mitzvotecha, ve'yahed levavenu le'ahava u'yira et shemecha, v'lo nivosh v'lo nikahem v'lo nikashem le'olam va'ed, ki v'shem kodoshkecha hagadol v'hanora b'tanu, nagila v'nismecha, nagila v'nismecha v'shuatecha.
Page 318.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Hear, O Israel, Adonai is our God, Adonai is one. Baruch Shem Kavod, Malhuto Leolam Va'ed. Blessed is God's glorious majesty forever and ever. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kavod Malhuto Leolam Va'ed. You may be seated. Ve'ahaveta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levecha uv'chol nafshecha uv'chol meotecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anahim Nitzavecha hayom alevavecha vishinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shivtecha b'veitecha uvletecha b'derech ushokbecha uvkumecha ukshartam leo yadecha v'hayu letotavo b'neinecha uktavtam amezuzot beitecha uvisharecha Lema'an tizkeru ve'asitem et kol mitzvotai vehitem kedoshim le'Elohim Ani Adonai Eloheihem Asher hotzeiti ethem mi'eretz Mitzrayim lehiot lachem le'Elohim Ani Adonai Eloheihem. We continue on page 321. Sing the song of men and women, joined in understanding and respect, the song of God's miracles, an earth protected and cherished, a gift for our children and the generations to come, the song of a land once ravished by war, now quiet and content, her soldiers home to leave no more, the song of a world redeemed, the song of peace. Ni hamo haba elim Adonai, ni hamo haned arba kodesh, nora tehilot osefele, nora tehilot osefele. Shira hadasha shibhu geulim lishimha asfat hayam. Yahakulam hodu vehimehu ve'ameru Adonai yimlo le'olam va'ed Adonai yimlo le'olam va'ed
Zu Yisrael Kuma be'ezrat Yisrael, ufdechinu mecha, Yehuda ve'Yisrael, go aleinu, Adonai tzvahot shemo, Kedosh Yisrael, Baruch atah Adonai, Gal Yisrael.
Please rise.
Page 323.
Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagid tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avotenu ve'Imotenu ve'Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak ve'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel ve'Elohei Leah Ha'el Hagadol Hagior Hanora El Elyon Gomil Hasadim Tovim Ve'konei Ha'akol V'zoher Haste Avot Ve'imahot Umevi Geula V'nei V'neihem Ve'ma'an Shemo Ve'hava Melech Ozer U'Moshiach U'Magen Baruch atah Adonai Magid Avraham Mizrat Sarah Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai Mechayeh HaKol Atah Rav Le'Oshia Mechayeh Chaim Behesed Mechaye hakol berachami rabim, somer noflim verofei holim, umatir asurim, umekaye emunato, lishenei afar, mihamo haba yivrot, umidom elah, melech memi, umechaye, umasmiach Yeshua.
Ne'eman ata lehachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, mechaye hakol.
Page 326.
Together, I have found my questions waiting to be posed. They fill me with wonder. Sit with me, eternal teacher. Encourage my seeking. As I fill my hours with your mitzvot, so shall I be filled. Sending me through your door, stretching up to honor your name, sharing out this wonder, enriching myself in giving. Nekadesh et Shemcha ba'olam, Kem Shem Shekadishim Oto B'Shmei Marom, Kakatov Ayad Nevi'echa, V'Karazel Ze'amar, Kadosh, 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 Adonai Sebayot, Melech ha'aretz, Kevodo. Ha'er Adonai, Adonai Eloheinu, Nahadir Shimcha b'chol ha'aretz. Baruch Kevod Adonai mimkomo. Echadu Eloheinu, Hu Avinu, Hu Malkeinu, Hu Moshienu, Vehu Yashmienu, Berachamav Leinei Kol Chai. Ani Adonai Eloheihem, Yimloch Adonai Leolam, Eloi Zion, Ledor Vador. Hallelujah. Ledor Vador Digod Lecha, Nisan Likishai Kadish, Leshitata Eloheinu, Mipinu Lo Yamosh, Leolam Vaed. Baruch atah Adonai Ha'el HaKadosh. You may be seated.
We join together in the words of a Shamru, a prayer that comes to us from the Torah and speaks of the joy of Shabbat, the day of rest.
Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et HaShabbat Lasot et HaShabbat Ledorotam berit olam. B'nei uvein b'nei Yisrael Oti leolam, Oti leolam. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et HaShabbat Lasot et HaShabbat Ledorotam berit olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai et hashamayim v'et haaretz. Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et HaShabbat Lasot et HaShabbat Ledorotam berit olam. Uvayom hashvi'i shavat vayinachash Shavat vayinafash, Shavat vayinafash, Vishamru v'nei Yisrael et HaShabbat, La'asot et HaShabbat Le'dorotam berit olam.
The prayers you just heard are part of a bigger prayer section called tefillah, the word for prayer, which also means the prayer section. It contains many different prayers on weekdays, on Shabbat, on holidays, and after we've begun together, it leaves a section for private prayer. And so over the next few moments, you can look at the next 5 or 6 pages, you can look at the Hebrew, you can look at the English, you can take the time for your own reflections, you can look at the windows, just reflect on the blessings of this wonderful day as we take time for silent prayer.
May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you. Adonai, 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 my rock and my Redeemer.
We turn to page 362 for Seder Kriyat Torah L'Shabbat, service for the reading of Torah. If this was 2,000 years ago, Natalie wouldn't be reading from the Torah. In fact, girls have only been reading from the Torah for about 100 years. Bar mitzvah is a relatively new and wonderful phenomenon and development in Judaism. But boys wouldn't have been doing this either. 2,000 years ago, you would have just become an adult, because 2,000 years ago, Jews were still offering sacrifices from their tribes to the temple in Jerusalem, sacrifices of animals, as their way of showing their love for God. And the Torah was read on a sort of once-a-year annual cycle when everybody gathered. With the destruction of the temple in Jerusalem, sacrificial worship ended. And some of us like to say, thankfully, the rabbis began the process of replacing all of the offerings with the words of our heart. And so the development of prayers that came to replace those offerings, prayers for peace, prayers for insight, prayers to give thanks for our health, prayers that then became our new offerings for God as the Jewish worship service developed over the next 2,000 years. And over time, young men and women began to read from the Torah as their way to take their place as Jewish adults, as up until recently men were doing, and now thankfully men and women do, on the Sabbath and on certain other days of the week when they gather together. So to read from the Torah is to take your place among all these other Jews who have told their stories, who have learned Hebrew, who have learned to read from this scroll, which is written in the same way that it has been written for centuries. I always like to point out to people that to read from the Torah scroll, it is so old, not this actual scroll, but the way it's written in all Torah scrolls, that the writing of the scroll, as we see it, is older than the development of the system of vocalization. And that's because people just kind of taught each other orally. So to learn to read from the Torah means we take all those little dots away that Natalie was learning to read in religious school, and we say, now you have to learn to read it as Jews were doing 2,000 years ago. So it really is quite a large undertaking. But the truth is that a bar bat mitzvah, becoming a daughter of the command, means something even more. For Natalie's family, it means that she takes her place, that her studies and her learning and her receiving Torah is both receiving the physical scroll, but also receiving all the hopes and dreams that her parents and her grandparents and even her brother has for her. And so as Natalie prepares to receive Torah, literally and figuratively, we're going to be calling up Patricia Marshall and Donald Moore, Eric Marshall, Melanie Anderson Marshall, and Max, if he's up to it, to open the ark. And we'll be calling up Brendan Richard Strausz and your parents, Natalie, Kate and Michael, to pass the Torah to you. And as we're going to be opening the ark and taking out the Torah, we ask the congregation to rise. Page 364.
Ein k'mocha v'Elohim Adonai, ve'ein k'maasecha, malechutcha malchut kol olamim, u'mimshaltecha bechol dor v'dor. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai imlach le'olam va'ed, Adonai oz le'amo yitin, Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. Harachamim heitiv avitzoncha et Zion, tivnei chomot Yerushalayim, ki v'echad levad batachnu, ki v'echad levad batachnu. Melech Elrom v'Nisa, Adon olamim, Adon olamim. Ki mitzion tetzei Torah, ki mitzion tetzei Torah, u'devar Adonai miYerushalayim. Susharim rashechem u'supitchei olam, ve'avo melech hakavod. Mihu ze melech hakavod, Adonai Tzevaot, hu melech hakavod, Selah.
In these scrolls are the story of our people's life from the beginning until now. Not just the creation of the world and the story of the matriarchs and patriarchs, but when Torah is passed from generation to generation, the story of each of our families becomes the story of the Torah as well. As Natalie receives Torah from her grandparents and parents, another generation The Jewish people have remained strong only through the efforts of the prior generation to place it on the shoulders of the next.
Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah. Baruch Shenatan Torah, Torah. Le'amo Yisrael b'kedushato. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Eloheinu Gadol Adonenu Kadosh Shemo Gadlul Adonai Iti Uneromema Shemo Yachtav Lecha Adonai Hagedula V'Hagevura V'Tiferet V'Hanetzach V'Hakol Ki hu b'shamayim u'va'aretz Ki hu b'shamayim u'va'aretz Lecha Adonai ha'mamlecha V'yamid na'aseh lechol erosh Romemu Adonai Eloheinu Ve'ishtachavu lehar kodsho Romemu Adonai Eloheinu Ve'ishtachavu lehar kodsho Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romemu Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romemu Adonai Eloheinu Ve'ishtachavu lehar kodsho Romemu Adonai Eloheinu Ve'ishtachavu lehar kodsho Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romemu Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romemu Adonai Eloheinu Ve'ishtachavu lehar kodsho Romemu Adonai Eloheinu Ve'ishtachavu lehar kodsho Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romemu Ki kadosh Adonai Eloheinu Romemu Adonai Eloheinu Ve'ishtachavu lehar kodsho.
Please be seated. For those of you who wish to follow along, there's two different page numbers here, right? So if there's a blessing, one says, before and after every time they read the Torah, and Natalie will be chanting that on page 368. But she'll be reading from the Torah. She'll be reading from Genesis chapter 18. The Torah portion is called Vayera, And if you wish to follow in Hebrew or English, that's in the red books. I know there's only 2 or 3 in each section because then there'd be no room for the prayer books. But if you can just listen to her, you don't have to. But if you're like, hey, I want to see what she's talking about in the story about Abraham, which she'll teach shortly, you can find that in the Plout Bamberger Torah commentaries on page 122, if you wish. That'll be page 122, and I'm not going to tell you what it's about because Natalie wrote a great speech. She'll tell you all about it later. I don't want to take away from any of that. But we'll be reading from the book of Genesis, chapter 18, and Ta'amod likro et Torah, we call up the bat mitzvah, habachura, tova, likro et Torah.
Baruch et Adonai Hamivorah.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Leolam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamivorach Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Bahar Banu Mikol Ha'amim V'natan Lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah. Amen. Vayera Elav Adonai Be'elonei Mamre Vehu Yoshev Petah HaOhel Kehom Chayam Vayotza Einav Vayar Vehine Shelosha Anasim Nitzavim Alav Vayarot Likratam Mipeta HaOhel Vayim Shahu Artsa Vaimar Adonai Imna Matzati Hein Be'eneha Alna Ta'avur Me'al Avtecha Yukachna Me'at Ma'im Merahat Su Raglehem Vishisha Anu Tahat Ha'etz Ve'ekha Vatlehem Visa'adu Livhem Ahar Ta'avoru Kiyokain Avartem All Avdehem Vayomeru Kain Ta'aseh Ka'asher Dibarta Vaymaher Avraham Ha'ohela El Sarah Vayomer Maharim Shelosh Se'im Kemah Solet Lucy Ta'asi Ugota.
All right.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'haye olam nata b'tohenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Amen.
Yeah, wonderful. We're going to dress the Torah and hold it over here while Natalie shares her speech for Hagbah Galila to lift and dress the Torah. I'd like to call up Amelia Omerberg, Lindsay Rosen, Marla Gluck, and Joel Rudin. And as we'll be lifting the Torah, I'd like to ask the congregation to please rise. After we hold the Torah, dress it, put it there. Are you good? You need a drink of water? No? Okay, all right, nice and slow, but not yet. Okay, so who's holding the Torah? Who's holding the Torah? Who wants to actually hold the Torah? Everyone's like, you know, you, okay. Yeah, okay, I'm gonna give you this to hold it.
Vezot Torah sher sam Moshe livnei v'nei Yisrael al pi Adonai b'yad Moshe. Yai rai 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 rai. Yai rai 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 yai rai rai rai. Yai rai 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 yai rai 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 rai. Yai rai 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 rai.
Please be seated. All right, and then okay. Perfect. Okay.
Imagine you're wandering the desert with no shelter in sight. Then you come upon Sarah and Abraham's house, and you are kindly welcomed in. In return for their hospitality, you offer Sarah the blessing that at 90 years old she will become pregnant. Hearing this, Sarah laughs, as she is 90 years old and does not think that she can have a child. Sarah, later to her astonishment, becomes pregnant. She later names this child Yitzchak, or Isaac, which means laughter, because she laughed when the visitors told her she would become pregnant. Sarah and Abraham wholeheartedly welcome these strangers into their home, not expecting anything in return, but just out of the goodness in their hearts. This goes along with my theme of treating strangers with kindness. For my Bat Mitzvah project, I collected over 1,000 books to donate to the Wellman Project, a nonprofit charity located here in Fort Worth. The Wellman Project's goal is to make books and learning resources accessible to everyone, no matter where they go to school. Even though most people were strangers I will never meet, I really enjoyed this project and making a difference. Later on in Genesis, God and Abraham argue over the fate of the cities Sodom and Gomorrah. God is arguing to get rid of the cities because there are evil people in them. Abraham argues to spare the cities, arguing that God would be killing the good people because of the actions of the bad people. This is another example of Abraham putting other people first and advocating for the righteous people and the strangers that he would likely never meet. Even though Abraham was not successful in saving the majority of the people, he did save one individual, and that is because he cared about strangers and their well-being. This shows that you should help people, not because you want anything in return, but out of the goodness in your heart. Even if you'll never meet the people, you still made an impact on their lives. What I learned from this portion is to treat people with kindness and respect. To get people to treat you with kindness and respect, you must treat them with kindness and respect. Because at the end of the day, we are all human and we are all doing our best. So using empathy and putting yourself in someone else's shoes really helped me throughout my mitzvah project when I was donating my books at the very end. Abraham uses empathy all throughout Genesis, from welcoming a stranger into his home to advocating to save righteous people in a village full of evil people. Now, I would like to thank everyone who is here today. All have had such a big impact on my life. Thank you all very much for coming and supporting me throughout my bar mitzvah journey.
Thank you for teaching. Thank you for sharing and all the work you did to get to this day. And even though you're an adult, your parents still get the final word. So we're going to invite your mom and dad up to share some thoughts of blessing and joy for this day here on the Bima.
So that was our first time hearing that Dvar Torah. So we were very anxious to hear what Natalie had to say, and I'm so glad that we finally got to hear it. It was so beautiful, Natalie. I'm so proud of you. Our family, friends, and congregants, thank you all for coming to share in our joy. Natalie, we're so proud of you today, and prouder still thinking about all of the effort you put forth working towards this goal. You studied diligently for months. Your Bat Mitzvah project will make a difference in the lives of many school children in our community. Collecting 1,000 picture books for local school children is amazing. You challenged yourself throughout. You started with a goal of 300, raised it to 500, and then stretched big to get to 1,000.
And I hope, going forward, that this is how you approach life, that you set goals with intention and sensitivity, that you choose projects that reflect your values and make a difference in the lives of others, and that you reevaluate and adjust as needed. Go bigger, go smaller, go in a different direction. Always remember that you are the author of your own story. Today is about tradition and community, and we hope you feel that. But we also hope that you carry this wisdom with you as you forge your own way in this beautiful and broken world. The world needs you. Today marks a transition of sorts into adulthood. When you were a newborn, I remember being so amazed that this tiny baby body contained everything needed to grow a full-fledged adult. And we love the adult you are becoming. We can't wait to see what the future holds for you, and we hope you feel the love in this room today, knowing that all these people are on your team.
Because life is a team sport. We're all here to look out for each other. But I don't need to tell you this. You've got this one. This summer, we had the opportunity to see how deeply Natalie cares for others. The day before a long-awaited outdoor adventure school trip, she fell ill. We all hoped it was allergies or a dry throat from the air conditioning or heat exhaustion. We desperately wanted this version of the story, and Natalie said, "I think I need a COVID test. I can't go on the trip and risk giving this to other people if I have COVID." And of course she had COVID. So instead of spending time in Montana mountain biking and river rafting with her friends, she spent time in a room in isolation. To make that choice with equanimity, perspective, and with care for others truly demonstrates your character. In the words of another esteemed rabbi, Albus Dumbledore, when it came time to choose between what was easy and what was right, Natalie chose what was right.
And the world will give you the choice between easy and right over and over again. We know you have the courage to ask hard questions and then to draw the answers from the depth and breadth of your tradition, the wisdom of others, and your own conscience. May you always seek justice and act with kindness towards yourself and others. You've got what it takes, and we love you very, very much.
In our house on Friday evenings, a lot of other Jewish homes too, we do the priestly blessing over the children. So I guess even though you're becoming not a child anymore, we're going to go ahead and do it again. So, Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha.
May God bless and protect you.
Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'hunecha.
May God shine the divine countenance onto you and be gracious to you.
Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasen lecha shalom.
May God's countenance turn toward you and grant you peace today and always.
So Natalie, this is a time I get to share something specifically with you, as you shared all your time and effort and all of the intentionality you put into all of your studies. This is when I get to give something back to you. We are gifts and we are blessings. We are his story in song. We are hope and we are healing. We are learning to be strong. We are words and we are stories. We are pictures of the past. We are carriers of wisdom, not the first and not the last. L'dor vador nagid God lecha. L'dor vador, we protect this chain. From generation to generation, L'dor vador, these lips will praise your name. Looking back upon the journey that we carry in our hearts, from the shadow of the mountain to the waters that would part, we are blessed and we are holy. We are children of your way. And the words that bring us meaning, we will have the strength to say. L'dor vador nagid God lecha. L'dor vador, we protect this chain. From generation to generation, L'dor vador, these lips will praise your name.
Thank you for being such great sports, holding that Torah scroll. We're going to prepare to return the Torah to the Ark, and to do so, we are going to call up Jennifer Strausz and John Brimble to open the Ark. I'm going to ask the congregation to please rise, and we're also going to have all these great helpers who help us return the Torah. So, in your Torah portion, as you pointed out, Abraham does something very kind for some strangers. And when you, given the opportunity to do the same, made all these books available. And that's really interesting because in Judaism, maybe whether you knew this or not, maybe you knew it, when the Jews are freed from Egypt, the very first thing they get is a book. A book that says you're free, but you're not free to do whatever you want. You're free to live in the world a certain way. And even more so, God tells us that books and reading and learning and struggling and inquisitiveness are the way to free ourselves. So by offering books for people who will never even meet you, you have offered them freedom. You have offered them a chance to read and to dream, to imagine, and become freer people in the world. And that's a very, very Jewish gift to give. And we are all very proud of you today for your project, for your inner strength, for being a role model to others. And as we ask God's blessing upon you, I want to say that I'm very, very proud because there's a prayer in the Torah that Aaron says to his children, and that the priests, beginning with Aaron, say to the Jewish people, that eventually parents say to children. But not everybody says it to their kids, and they don't always say it on the bima. So I say it. So I'm sitting there next to Russ Schultz, our president. He's like, oh, they took your line. But I said, that's great they took my line, because how wonderful to know, really as a rabbi, to know that every week your parents take time on Shabbat to bless you. And not only they bless you, but they bless you in the same way Jewish parents have been blessing their children on Shabbat for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. So I'm going to simply add to that by saying, Adonai yishmor tzeitecha uvoecha me'ata v'ad olam. May God bless you in your coming and your going. May God bless you in your steps and in your strength. May God give you the courage and the imagination, the perseverance, and the joy to teach others, to be an inspiration to others, and to bring learning to others. And all of us say, Amen. And we continue.
Hodu al eretz v'shamayim, ve'yarem kerem le'amo, tehila lecho chasidav, libnei Yisrael am kirovo. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Et chaim hi l'machazikim ba v'tomchecha meushar derafeha darchei noam v'chol netivotecha shalom. Hashivenu Adonai elecha v'nashuvo Kadesh, Kadesh Yameinu, Kadesh Yameinu kekedem.
We turn to page 586, and as we look toward the end of the service, we also look toward the future with the words of the prayer Aleinu.
Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, l'teit g'dula le'yotzer bereshit, shelo asanu kigoyei haratzot, velo zamanu k'mishpechot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkeinu kahen, begoralenu kechol hamonam, ve'anachnu korim, u'mishachavim u'modim, lifnei melech malchei hamachim, hakadosh baruch hu. V'nemar v'haya Adonai l'melech al kol haaretz, bayom hahu, bayom hahu, yeh Adonai echad, u'shemo, u'shemo, u'shemo echad.
Please remain seated for one more moment. Please remain standing for one more moment. Someone's paying attention. Don't sit yet. We turn to page 595, and we read together in English. At the bottom, there are stars up above, so far away we only see their light long, long after the star itself is gone. And so it is with people that we loved. Their memories keep shining ever brightly, though their time with us is done. But the stars that light up the darkest night, these are the lights that guide us as we live our days. These are the ways we remember. At every Jewish service, we take time for memory. We sanctify God's name with the Kaddish, even as we remember those who live no more. So especially at times of celebration, we acknowledge that there are stars in the sky, lights that inspired us, that brought us to this moment of learning and joy, who are not with us anymore. And yet we remember them even as we celebrate and as we connect to future generations. Page 598, for those who know and are comfortable, we join in the mourner's Kaddish. Yit gadal v'yit gadash shemei Rabbi, bi'alma divrach yiruteh v'amlich malchuteh, b'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, ba'agalal v'izman kari v'imru. Amen. Yehi shmei Rabba mevorach le'olam u'lomei almaya. Yit barach v'yishtabach v'yit ba'ar v'yit romam v'yit naseh. V'yit adar v'yit halev v'yit ala. Shmei d'kudsha brichu. Le'la min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Da'amiram b'yalma v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav. Hu yaseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Zichronam levracha. May the memories of all our departed be a blessing for us. And we say, Amen. Please be seated. A lot of people look forward to hugging you or thanking you or seeing you or partying with you. But the final words here today on this Saturday morning come from Russ Schultz, representing the brotherhood and the sisterhood and the congregation.
Natalie, let me get this up here. There we go. Oop. I'll get it. Okay. Natalie, one of the joys that I have as president of the congregation is to represent the congregation at the bar and bat mitzvahs and to observe our young people as they take the next step in their Jewish lives. The other night when we spoke, you told me how interested you were and you enjoyed piano and that you enjoyed, cross country. Well, in the language of piano, bravo. You did a beautiful job. And maybe in the language of cross country, you crossed the line first and you showed everybody what you could do. I know that your parents, your family, and your friends have every right to be very proud of you today, as is the congregation. And representing the congregation, I have some gifts to give you to help you remember this day. The first is a certificate that shows that I did it. Well, you did it. And there's that. There is, I'm looking for other things here. There is a certificate from NFTY, the National Federation of Temple Youth, that is a $250 certificate for to help you towards a trip to Israel. Let's see, is there anything else in there? Okay, over here, from FWFTY, the Fort Worth Federation of Temple Youth, they will be planting a tree in Israel in your honor. The Jewish war veterans have a book for you. They were soldiers in peace and war. The Men of Reformed Judaism, our Temple Brotherhood, have a book for you, the complete how-to handbook for Jewish living. Our sisterhood, the Women of Reformed Judaism, have candlestick holders for you. And the Fort Worth, Tarrant County Federation, Jewish Federation, has a tzedakah box for you. You couldn't have made us all prouder. You did a beautiful job. Congratulations. Mazel tov.
Thank you very much.
And in a moment, we will join in the blessing over bread. And there's a wonderful homemade challah, and we'll join in that blessing. But before we do, a closing song. It's actually the same line as the end of the Kaddish. May God, who makes peace above and in the universe, bring peace and wholeness to us, to all who are in need in the world. We'll just join along, but the words are at the very bottom of 598, and we can just sing together.
Ose shalom bimromav, uyase shalom aleinu. Ose shalom bimromav, uyase shalom aleinu. Ose shalom bimromav, uyase shalom aleinu. Yase shalom, yase shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yase shalom, yase shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
We'll join together in the blessing over bread. Should we call anybody else up? Should call your brother up. There we go. Come on up, Jacob. And you should. Here we go. Let's see what we have for you here today. And then as we're leaving the synagogue, please do to stay to congratulate the family, to join in some challah, and just to welcome and wish everybody a wonderful, wonderful Shabbat. Look, it fits perfectly in the basket. Is that your idea? No. It's pretty amazing. That's your idea? Look, it's beautiful. It's like its own little challah basket, however you measure that. So I'm going to ask you to lift this up so everyone can see how beautiful it is, and we'll join together in the blessing over bread. Baruch atah.
Amen.
Shabbat shalom, and you can take the first piece, and then you can go carry the basket and be the most popular person here. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Thank you so much. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, sir.
Chugging along.
Yeah.
I'll see you
Another one down.
I'll see you in a few days, but now you actually got a month off of Saturdays
No.
until 2 in January. So you got some Saturdays.
Yeah, we'll make up for it.
You'll make up. Then you got a couple.